Concerning scenes earlier tonight in Charlotte as Grizzlies player Jaylen Wells had to be taken off the court on a stretcher after seemingly being unconscious with a potential head and neck injury on this play. In this video, we'll walk through exactly what we saw with the emergency response on the court and what to think about going forward with an injury like this. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and the goal in this channel is to teach you more about the medical side of the sports world. Now, what we saw tonight with Jaylen Wells is something that we're pretty used to seeing, unfortunately, in the world of football, combat sports, but we don't see a lot like this in basketball. Even concussions tend to not be as talked about of a topic, or as frequent of a topic for that matter, in the world of basketball. But of course, we also hear Jaylen Wells getting stretchered off the court, and so let's back this up and walk through this whole sequence. The latest update, of course, is that he is alert, he's talking, he's moving his extremities, and so we seem to not have any sort of a serious concerning brain or neck injury, but he has suffered a fracture in his wrist. As Wells goes up here, essentially what happens is more of just a concussion. As he goes down to the court, we can see how he puts first that right arm down to brace his fall. This is very likely when that fracture happened. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a scaphoid fracture, which is going to be one of the more common bones to be broken in the wrist. We call this a fouche, a fall on an outstretched hand. So he's trying to brace his fall with that right side, unable to, and then as he comes down, his head just hits the side of the court. Most of the time, whenever we see a concerning cervical spine fracture, paralysis, that sort of a thing, there's often some sort of axial load into the head as opposed to just a landing directly on the side. And so in this case, he doesn't land directly on the top of his head. Axial would be like landing on the top of your head with the force pushing downward. In this case, he hits the side of his head. And then when we see him laying motionless here on the court, he's unconscious here. We see a little bit of posturing there with the positioning of his left hand going into that rigidity. So as the medical staff is getting out here, they probably saw the play. They're, I'm sure, concerned about the neck, but they're more concerned about his level of alertness and consciousness. Couple of things to always keep in mind here. We see the other players here for Charlotte come across. I understand the instinct here to want to try to help a player whenever you see somebody down like this, but I'm glad they did not try to turn him over. So if you're playing sports, you're in a situation like this where one of your teammates or friend goes down, don't try to roll them over, especially if you have trained medical staff on site, because there's a certain way that we want to make sure we properly protect the neck, protect the spinal cord, if we're going to roll somebody over and put them on a backboard. And so good to see the restraint here, that they didn't try and flip him over, grab his head, grab his neck. I think this is Ja that comes in here, really just trying to get him off his teammate and probably angry about the whole situation. So good that they got this under control, got the players away. And right away, we see this fist go up. So the fist going up right here is the symbol to bring out the cart. This is the symbol that you need emergency staff to come out. It seemed a little quick. Oftentimes in the football world, you know, we will often give some time to see if the athlete comes to, because the reason they put him on the backboard here, they didn't even do a neurologic exam. I mean, you can see by the time they get out there, there's no mention of like, hey, move your hands, move your feet, etc. They just right away put up the fist to bring out the backboard. Typically, you might give somebody some time to see their level of alertness, because the reason you spineboard somebody in this situation isn't necessarily because you know they have a neck injury. It's because you can't safely rule out a neck injury. In order to go through and do the evaluation for a cervical spine, a neck injury, you need to be able to trust that what the player is responding to you is what you can understand. And so if you're asking the player, hey, you know, move your arms, move your legs, and he doesn't move his arms or his legs, you want to be sure that it's not because they're just concussed and out of it, but that they're trying and they truly can't. So in this situation, they must have just felt like it was very clear that he was unconscious and they weren't going to be able to reliably do any sense of an exam. I've been in a couple situations like this covering football where by the time you get out there, the level of consciousness is sort of starting to come to a little bit. And so you try to just carefully assess the situation. And if the athlete is clearly coming out of that unconscious state to where you can start to converse with them, you can start to interact with them, you still want to keep their neck stabilized. And you can see here, they don't try to roll him over. They're talking to him with him face down or prone, which is correct. That's what you want to do. You don't want to try to roll them over until you've done some of that basic assessment. Often, though, it wouldn't be surprising to see them give maybe 30 seconds or so to see if he comes to where he can properly participate in the exam. And then if not, then absolutely get him on the backboard and get him off safely for further evaluation. As we see him being wheeled off, there's a lot of stuff here that they almost certainly didn't need in his situation, but they keep on that emergency cart. We see an oxygen canister down here. It looks like he has a pulse oximeter, this white thing on his finger to measure his blood oxygen levels. This unit right here is going to be for evaluating heart rate, rhythm, that sort of thing, but it doesn't even look like it's been hooked up. This just kind of comes out with the cart. And so again, in this situation, it's not that they evaluated and said, oh man, we think he broke his neck or is paralyzed. It's most likely because he looked unconscious from hitting his head. You can't trust your evaluation, so you assume the worst, protect their spine until you can trust your evaluation or have done further assessments at the hospital to rule out the possibility of a neck injury. So just because you see this, don't assume that that means the medical staff has evaluated and diagnosed a neck injury. Oftentimes it's because somebody's level of alertness is such that they can't adequately participate in the exam to safely clear their spine. And as of course we've heard since, seems to be alert, conscious, moving all of his extremities, so no signs of a serious neck injury. The wrist injury, like I said, I would suspect potentially a scaphoid fracture. We can see whenever he came down and landed on the court here, as he tried to brace himself with, yeah, it looks like it's that right side. That right arm goes out, the elbow is locked straight, and what that does is it puts all of that force in through the bones of your wrist, probably causing a scaphoid fracture. That would be the most common thing that you would see in this situation, which in and of itself might require surgery. So I would expect everything with concussion in the neck to be cleared, doing pretty well fairly quickly. But don't be surprised if we hear about something needing surgery in the wrist, because most scaphoid fractures at this level, you're probably going to have a lower threshold, probably going to be thinking about doing surgery, which of course would put him out for the season. No impact though for next year. So that's it for the video, everybody. Let me know as always any questions or comments down below. Hopefully this was helpful to talk through the situation and understand a little bit what we're doing kind of behind the scenes, what's going through our head when evaluating an injury like this on the court.